Now, Dumeezor is an interesting one. I particularly like, if he implements it, he's in trouble. If he doesn't implement it, he's in trouble. So, justice for Sim. Hashtag justice for Sim. What does the River State governor have to do at this point?
Well, first of all, to clear the air, saying if he implements it, he's in trouble. If he doesn't implement it, he's in trouble. I think there's a lesser trouble. There's a lesser trouble, on both ends. Because it appears that our focus had shifted from what is even the core of, that whole scenario. And I had also said before that the issues had transited from an individual problem to a political problem, and from being a political problem, it had become an ethnic problem, and from being an ethnic problem, it has become a constitutional problem. And I think that everybody who is interested in bringing back peace on this note to River State should understand the extent the issue had gotten to, and must take cognizance of those facts and take stable decisions that favors the various facets of society that is now affected. And I'm going to explain further by saying, look, there are court injunctions, there are ex parte orders that have been given. You remember I said that this was not really a political party problem as claimed by the 27 former members. I'm speaking by law now.
Right. Of
the River State House of Assembly. And I had established that there was no problem in the People's Democratic Party, no evidence to any problem that they can present before the courts. And I believe that they have also evaluated the circumstances, and they've seen that if this matter continues the way it's going, the way it was going, they were going to lose in courts because they don't have the legal grounds to have taken that decision. Their claims cannot be substantiated by the evidences available to us. So I think that a fast one was played by the minister, even if he would deny it, to bring in the president to give a directive. Yes, it was intended to solve the problem, but we must take cognizance of the fact that there is a constitution now at play. It is no longer the ethnic thing, it is no longer the individual thing between the governor and the minister. It is now a constitutional matter, because people had gone to courts and had approached the courts seeking interpretation of certain decisions, and the courts had given an ex parte order. And this is a constitutional democracy. So beyond the sentiment of ethnicism, my love for the minister or my love for the governor, we are into almost a constitutional crisis already. So I felt that Mr. President, in trying to offer a political solution, should have also taken cognizance of that fact, not to be entrapped into this whole scenario by giving express directives, not even recognizing that there are ex parte orders. So and the orders are not even just surrounded around the governor. The speaker by law,
Edison
Eye, had gone to court, and the matter is still subsisting. The order by the court had not been vacated. So if Mr. President wants everybody to drop their cases, I expected that Speaker Edison Eye would have been one of those to sign on that document to say, okay, but being absent conspicuously, it means he's irrelevant. That's the way the president sees him. And if you're saying he's irrelevant, you're saying the constitution is irrelevant because he has the backing of the constitution. So I expected that on the table, I will see Edison sign, I will see the governor sign, and others. Now, the implication is that Edison would have said, okay, I'm going to withdraw my matter from the court.
Right.
Not just the state governor. Because it's not just the state governor that's in court. And I predicted when this decision was taken that, look, this thing is going to elicit a lot of litigations. And now you see some elders in River State have gone to court.
Right.
And there are several other persons who have gone to court to say, look, we are challenging that directive. The governor cannot implement those directives. It puts us into a constitutional crisis. And how are we going to see Mr. President if Mr. President is fighting against the same constitution that empowers him? How are we now going to see the governor to act against the same constitution that empowers him? So at the end of the day, it is going to move us into a constitutional crisis. And if the governor goes against the court orders to recognize the other assembly, if he goes against the court order to recognize the other assembly, it means the governor has committed an impeachable offense.
There you go.
And then it means that the governor can be impeached on the grounds that he has gone against the constitution. Because look, there's a court order that has not been vacated, and consequently it is still subsisting. And until that has been vacated, you cannot act against what the court has said. And these issues are still within the corridors of the court. So I think that, you know, there is a far more consequence in implementing those directives than not implementing them. You know, the worst that would happen is that, look, the presidency, they're going to start, you know, trying to influence institutions to act against the governor. Well, the consequences are far less if we had some kind of respect for our constitution. Because in disregarding the constitution, you're disregarding the autonomy of the states,
right,
as given by the law. So I think that the only way around this thing is to play some kind of politics. And in playing some kind of politics, the governor will have to subpedal on implementing certain aspect of that directive that has direct impact on what the law says as at today. And if he has to do that, there's no problem in paying the assembly members for the past months. But foregoing, if you continue to pay them, it means you're recognizing them.
Right.
Because if the court has said, look, these persons are no longer members of the assembly, and the speaker has recognized by law, by the court verdict, has, you know, declared their seat vacant, and you continue to pay them when that order had not been vacated, it means you're going against the law.
Now that's the big question. First off, in the Christmas message from the state governor, Fubara, he said clearly that both sides of the war have made steps at reconciliation. First off, the impeachment proceedings have been withdrawn.
Yeah.
Then he went on to say that the state government had commenced payment of their emoluments. To what date, to what extent, were not mentioned.
Yeah.
So we do not have that information. When we have it, we'll now look at it. But then again, this constitutional trap that, well, clearly, knowingly or unknowingly been set for the governor, is this part of the bigger scheme of things in the Grand Master Plan of the Federal Capital Territory Minister and the APC in capturing River State for the APC as it were? Because if the state governor gets impeached, who becomes governor? The speaker. The question is, which speaker? If the governor goes ahead to recognize the 27 as still being part, now these are postulations, as being part, still being part of the assembly, because that's part of what the agreement says. Recognize these guys, reinstate them. If they are reinstated, in the first place, it's not even the governor. The governor does not have the authority to reinstate them. But if he says recognize them and they come back, that would mean that Martin Ameole, Right Honorable Martin Ameole, becomes the Speaker of the Assembly, who has defected from the PDP to the APC.
Yeah.
So if the governor is impeached for running foul of the Constitution, as it were, by recognizing them, who becomes governor?
Well, there's a deputy governor, and you know, if the governor gets impeached, the deputy governor becomes the acting governor.
You do not think.
But I'm thinking, because the schemes are obvious.
Right.
You know, the deputy governor might be forced to resign, and she can also be impeached. You know, but if the assembly, you know, if there's any court case against the governor, of course, if he had been impeached and the assembly impeaches him on the grounds that he had gone against the constitution to recognize them, it will also lead to another litigation. And the litigation would be that if the governor was impeached on the grounds that he went against the law to recognize you, it means that you are not supposed to be recognized.
It means you recognize that you are not supposed to be recognized.
So you are not supposed to be in the assembly. So, you know, I don't see that pretty much been the grounds for impeachment. They might find several other reasons to want to impeach him, you know, but up till today they have not been able to tell us, you know, on what basis are we trying to impeach the governor.